Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Tombstone Tourist. This week, I will be wrapping up my visit to Alabama. I made my way up from Birmingham to the small town of Jasper, Alabama, where I spent the night. And this morning, as I was checking out of the hotel, I asked the desk clerk if there was anything interesting to see in Jasper. She sort of laughed and said, "No, not really. But you could go down to the cemetery and say hey to Goober." So, that's what I'm doing. I'm here in the Oak Hill Cemetery in Jasper, Alabama, where I am indeed going to say hey to Goober. For resting here in this cemetery is George Lindsey, who will forever be known as Goober Pyle from the Andy Griffith Show. As I entered the cemetery, I happened upon this monument dedicated to Jesse Marvin Pennington, who was a U.S. Navy reservist born here in Jasper on November 7, 1919. During his service on the USS Warrington, he was lost at sea off the coast of Norfolk, Virginia, while trying to save his shipmates during a hurricane on September 13, 1944. Just a short walk up this paved road, under the magnolia trees in the distance, we will find the final resting place of George Smith Goober Lindsey, who was born here in Jasper on December 17th, 1928. Growing up here in Jasper, young George developed an interest in the movies. Whenever he had the money, George could often be found at the local movie theater. He was a huge fan of Hopalong Cassidy, and you could rest assured that anytime there was a Hopalong Cassidy movie being played at the local theater, George was there. While in high school, George had two main interests: acting and sports. George was a pretty decent athlete, earning a football scholarship to the Florence State Teachers College, which is today known as the University of North Alabama. While in college, George played quarterback for the football team, but he also started to pursue what turned out to be his true love, acting. He performed in a number of stage plays while he was in college. George graduated from college with a degree in biological science and physical education. After graduation, George served a stint in the United States Air Force and he was stationed in Florida. It was while in Florida that he developed and performed a stand-up comedy routine, which earned him some extra money. After completing his military service, George returned to Alabama, where he took a job as a high school history teacher. However, George's first love was acting, and he soon left his teaching job and relocated to New York to pursue his acting career. His first big break came when he landed a part in the Broadway play called All-American. His success in New York led George to move to Los Angeles, and in 1962, he landed a role in a number of TV shows. His first TV appearance was on The Rifleman, which he quickly followed up with an appearance on The Twilight Zone. He made his California film debut in 1964 in a film called Ensign Pulver. Later in 1964, George's career and life changed forever when he landed the role of Goober on the Andy Griffith Show. George was first cast as Goober Beasley, but his character was later renamed Goober Pyle to tie him in with regular cast member Jim Nabors, who played a character called Gomer Pyle. Nabors, who had appeared in 23 episodes during the show's first two seasons, was such a popular hit that midway through the third season, Nabors and Gomer Pyle was spun off into a feature of his own TV show called Gomer Pyle, USMC. With the character of Gomer gone, Andy and the show's producers turned to George, who returned to the show as Gomer's cousin, Goober Pyle. One of George's co-stars on the Andy Griffith Show was Frances Bavier, who played Aunt Bee. Some of the Andy Griffith Show fans and insiders had written about the conflict between Frances and some of the show's other cast members, including the show star, Andy Griffith. George and Frances had their issues as well. George was somewhat of a prankster and cut-up on the set. He was always cutting up and would often ad-lib lines. George's antics and lack of discipline did not sit well with Frances, who believed that his conduct on the set was not appropriate. George was a regular on the Andy Griffith Show from 1964 until Andy left the show in 1968. CBS decided to rebrand the show as Mayberry R.F.D. Frances Bavier was the only original Andy Griffith cast member to make the transition to the new show. Several other cast members who had regular roles on the Andy Griffith Show also made the move to Mayberry R.F.D., including Jack Dobson as Howard Sprague, Paul Hartman as Emmett Clark, and of course, George Lindsey as Goober Pyle. Mayberry R.F.D. aired from 1968 to 1971. When the show ended, George continued to embrace his character of Goober Pyle, appearing regularly on Hee Haw from 1972 until 1992. These appearances on Hee Haw led to several appearances on the Grand Ole Opry. During his long career, George appeared on a number of other TV shows, including 6 episodes of Gunsmoke, 3 episodes of the Alfred Hitchcock Hour, and 2 episodes of Gomer Pyle, USMC. He also appeared on Death Valley Days, Daniel Boone, and MASH. George was an avid supporter of Special Olympics, and through his annual George Lindsey Celebrity Golf Tournament, which ran for 17 years, he raised more than $1 million for the Alabama Special Olympics. In 1995, George was inducted into the Alabama Music Hall of Fame, and in 1997, he was the recipient of the Minnie Pearl Lifetime Achievement Award. George Lindsey passed away in Nashville, Tennessee at the age of 83 on May 6, 2012, from the complications of heart failure. He is resting here in the Oak Hill Cemetery in his hometown of Jasper, Alabama. You sure did make us laugh. In fact, we're still laughing today. Rest in peace, Goober. Well, this wraps up my visit to Alabama. Over the past few weeks, we have visited and paid our respects to a number of notable people who have called Alabama home and are resting here. People like legendary football coaches Bobby Bowden and Bear Bryant, along with Hall of Famer Bart Starr. We visited the graves of NASCAR drivers Neil Bonnet and brothers Davey and Clifford Allison, along with the man who played the role of Mr. Haney on the TV show Green Acres, Pat Buttram. And last, but certainly not least, today we stopped to say hey to Goober, George Lindsey. I don't know where I'll be next. I guess I'll know where I am when I get where I'm going. So if you want to be notified where I end up, be sure to ring that bell and subscribe. And if you enjoy my videos, I always appreciate a thumbs up. So until next time, please remember, life is a wonderful journey. Be sure to take time and enjoy it. And I will see you down the road. So long, everybody.